Hi, welcome to my latest video. Today I'm going to be filming part 5 of my Winch series of videos. In parts 1 to 4 of this series I showed how I fitted a Rhino 13,500 pound rated winch to my Freelander 2. Okay, so it's a discrete winch. It goes behind the grille. You can't see it. All you see is the fair leads here with a rope with a hook, and that's it. The rest of it is all hidden away on a winch tray mounted behind the front bumper of the car. In this 5th part of the video series, I am going to actually remove the front end again. Okay, so all of this has got to come off. Headlights out, headlight guards, number plate off, bumper surround back off, sump guard off, the spats underneath, the inner wheel arches, the whole lot's got to come off, because there are some things that I want to do with the control box. Okay, so so I'm going to be improving the mounting of the relay box. Okay, so that just was sort of mounted with a couple of little bolts with some nuts on it. The grille, you can see here, is just touching, and these 3 sort of half diamond holes here, it's actually pressing against the grille, pressing against the winch. The winch is pressing against the back of the grille. So I'm going to carefully cut a little bit from the back of the grille. I don't want to change the way the grille looks from outside. I have seen some people just chop out a massive chunk of grille, and it looks terrible. You want to keep the grille looking the same as it always does. One other thing I've just thought of that I want to do, so these wires here are sort of squeezed through a little bit of a narrow gap there. I want to fit some wiring cradles just so that the wire doesn't rub against any metalwork and sort of wear through the insulation. Now, this wire here, this red wire here, is switched by the switch, but the other one going down there is permanent 12 volt connected straight onto the battery. Okay, so I do need to take the routing of that cable very seriously. If it wears through and it touches the chassis, that's going to short the battery and risks fire. Okay, so there's no fuse on here. That's something else that I want to look into. But this winch can actually, when it's really working hard, can draw a crazy current. It's like 380 amps or something like that. So it's the sort of thing where it's a bit high for a fuse, really. I think this fuse here on the starter is 100 amps, but if I was to use something like that, if I was to connect this to here, it could blow the fuse whilst using the winch. So so I'll give that a bit of thought, but for now it is permanently connected via this switch. Okay, so permanent 12 volts, and these wires here, this is plastic here, but I'm not too happy with how they're going through there, because if I do that, that's sort of kind of pinching them a bit there, that won't go down. So there's a lot of little things to think about here, a lot of little finishing touches, but this will be the last video. When I do finally go out and get myself stuck in some mud and actually use the winch in anger to kind of pull myself out, I will film that up, and I'll put that up as a sort of a bonus feature. But I'm not going to hold up part 5 waiting for the time where I actually have to use the winch. Okay, so so that will happen sooner or later, I'm sure. When it does, I'll put that up as either a sort of bonus feature or part 6 or whatever, but who knows when that will be. But I just want to get part 5 done so that the 5-part video series on how to fit it is complete, and I can then move on to something else. Okay, so I've got lots of other projects to get on with. I've got the Haldex, I've got rust proofing, I'm going to be fitting a ladder, I have I've already mentioned the roof rack. I do a roof rack video, and yeah, there's lots and lots. I've got a whole list of about 25 to 30 ideas for videos that I need to film. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of exciting videos coming up, and yeah, just gotta get out here and get on. Now the weather today is good. It's mid-September, okay, so I'm running out of time to have this kind of weather. So before I know it, it's going to be windy and rainy, and it's not going to be very pleasant to be out here working on the car. I will continue, I will do that, but some of my videos may be in the dark, it might be in the rain. But today, this is the Saturday of the unexpected bank holiday weekend, because on Monday it's the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, who sadly died recently. I'm not going to be doing any filming on Monday out of respect, but today and tomorrow I'm gonna crack on. Okay, let's get started. I've taken out these bolts here, the other bolt underneath on each side, the 3 screws that were in the spats at the bottom, the sump guard to allow the front end to come out, and the fair leads, the bumper surround, taking the hook off the winch, put that back through there, number plate off, parking sensors off, and a couple of other things. So what I have found when taking this front end off before is that you lift it away, and of course there's the washer hose for the headlight washers and the connector for the parking sensors and the fog lights, which is then very, very difficult to deal with those with the front end sort of half lifted off the car. So what I've done here is left those screws in at the top, and then I've just looked in here and found that connector. Okay, so this connector here is very difficult to get apart. Let's just try and reach in and get this. So this one here, there's a real sort of knack to getting this apart. You need to slide the red thing back, and then you need to press there. Okay, so you press there, and it doesn't feel like it moves, but it only has to move down a tiny amount. Can you see? I'll try and zoom in on that actually. Zoom in on that thing there. I don't know if that's focused or not, but you can see that's moving. Okay, that is what you need to do, and then you wiggle the connector apart. Okay, and when you put it back together, maybe smear a bit of grease or put some WD-40 around just to make it a little bit easier next time. That connector can be the hardest part of removing the front end. If you can't get that apart, I've seen people working with the front end sort of still attached by the wires, kind of like tangled at the side of the car, upside down over there, with the wiring kind of still going to the front end because they couldn't get that connector apart. On this side, you have to deal with the washer hose. Okay, so what you do is up here you find the little one-way valve, okay, which is connected to the end of a short bit of hose that goes to this. Okay, so this is the headlight washer on the driver's side. You take the hose off, and then you reach in behind here. Okay, so it's a bit dark in there, but round the back of the pump is where the other hose attaches. Okay, the other hose goes up and then across to the other washer jet for the headlight on the other side. Okay, so you pull that off the other side of the pump very carefully without dislodging the pump, otherwise you will lose all of your washer fluid, and then you connect the one that went up to here back onto the pump. So you've got this loop here. Okay, so the pump out, the 2 outputs of the pump are basically looped around, and then that way you don't lose any washer fluid. Okay, otherwise it will just be going everywhere. So the front end is now ready to be lifted away. I just need to remove these 4 bolts at the top, and the whole lot can come away from the car. Okay, I've decided to spray my grille black. Spraying the grille is a completely different sort of project, but it makes sense to do it at the same time as taking the front end off for the winch. But as far as the winch is concerned, I need to cut a bit of plastic away from here, so again makes sense to do that before I spray all this. And then what we'll do is once this has been cut away, it's been sprayed, and I've dealt with the other things that I want to deal with, so wiring cradles and also the bolts that hold the relay box on. I want to sort of put some aluminium tube spacers on those just to make that a bit more stable, and then it'll all go back on and put back together, and that's it. Okay, so the front end is removed from the car. That's over there. We can have a look at the winch again. Okay, so there's the winch, there's that, which comes through the fair lead. Bit of a shame that these have rusted actually. Yeah, because this mounting tray is from Muddy Mods. They've powder coated this steel with nice black paint, but these ones have gone rusty, so yeah, maybe I'll remove those. While I'm spraying the grille, I'll take these off and give them a coat of paint as well. While the front end's off, let me quickly go over a couple of things that I need to do. So these wires up through here need some wiring cradles attached here somehow, drilled through. I don't quite know how I'm going to deal with those yet. This wire here goes to the remote control plug there, and that then goes off along the top of the radiator all the way across to the wing fake vent on the wing on the other side, okay, to the socket. This box here, in hindsight, I think I should have put that the other way round. Okay, a couple of my YouTube viewers said that even though there are these cable glands here with grommets, O-rings or whatever inside, rain water could still get in. Okay, so this would have actually been better off the other way up. I don't think I'd have been able to use the bracket that came with it. I'd have had to have made a different bracket because it would be probably higher up. Might also then have been issues with it clearing the grille. I don't think it could be just sort of flipped, because then there's not enough room. There's a little gap under there, only about sort of 10-15 millimeters under there, not enough for these cables to come out there. So that would be further up. It would allow, well no, actually that would then be over here, which then is going to hit this. So this is the way I've done it. This is the way everyone else seems to do it. I've seen a couple of people fit this model of winch, and that's how they did it. And also the Muddy Mods winch, if you buy the bracket with the winch, it's a Winch Max, I think it's Winch Max winch. They wire theirs in like this. I'm pretty sure. I've seen photos of it. They're all kind of rigged up with nice yellow and blue cables, and the box is like that. So so that's how I've done mine. What I need to do is get in down in here. I've just sort of put a couple of M5 sort of stainless bolts across there, which are coming out here to nylocks. Okay, so that I need bigger bolts with some aluminium spacer sleeves on. This is a little bit loose and a bit wobbly. Okay, so I'll be dealing with that probably tomorrow, and yeah, I think that's it, the wiring and the bracket. The only other thing I'll talk about now is the free spool handle. Okay, so to operate the free spool on this model of winch, you just have to lift the handle. Okay, now it is on a spring, it goes back down, so the idea is you lift it and you turn it slightly. It kind of says in the instructions or wherever that you turn it 90 degrees, but you actually don't need to turn it 90 degrees, you just need to turn it enough to stop it popping back down again. You could actually free spool out with it just held up like that. So other models of winch have a like a 90-degree or even a 180-degree handle on them. So those ones are the ones where you need some kind of motor that turns 90 or 180 degrees, or a lever coming out through the grille, or some sort of rod that you can put in and turn. That wasn't suitable on this because when that's popped down, that's locked, okay, so you can't just turn it. Okay, so what I thought I would try to make was something that would lift that. I thought of various ways of doing it. So first of all, I bought a kind of like a linear actuator. There's a sort of a motor that would either lift or pivot that up somehow. In the end I decided not to do that. Then I thought about just lifting that and sticking something underneath there, stop it going back down, and using a kind of a pump 90-degree thing, but that's no good because that does need to go down and you can't then turn that, so that was no good. And then I thought about getting one of those big electromagnets that you see on sort of fire doors and office doors where you have a key fob or a swipe card, and the magnet de-energizes and you can open the door. They're also used to hold doors open as well. So I thought about putting a metal or steel sort of disc on here and then having a magnet sort of mounted in a kind of a cradle above, and when that's energized it sort of pulls that up, just attracts the steel disc up to it. The issue with that is there's just not really enough room here. The grille comes up like that, so there isn't really enough room for some kind of big magnetic thing to be sitting on top. So I have decided not to do any of those ideas. I'm just going to continue to reach through the grille and just operate that by hand. Okay, there's enough room to reach in. I've moved my amber strobes so they're out of the way. If I do fit spotlights with the spotlight brackets on the grille, I might need to find a different way to do that, but for now I'm more than happy just reaching in and just turning that a bit, free spooling out. Okay, so that's moving, and then just knocking that back in and that locks. Okay, so dead easy. Just really not worth the effort to try to automate that with some sort of motor or electromagnet. Okay, so front end's off. I'm going to get my multi-tool now and cut a bit of plastic off here, just off the back there, off those three sort of half diamond kind of holes there, so just along the back there. Cut that. I'm going to spray the grille as well while it's off the car, and do this and do the wiring, and that's it then. I think that is it. I can then put it all back together, project finished, and I can move on to something else. So what I'm going to do now is use my multi-tool to carefully cut the grille away. If I zoom in, so what I've done is I've marked up on this side where I need to cut. Okay, so those are the points where it was touching the winch, and that translates to here on this side of the grille, on the back of the grille. Okay, so I'm going to try and relieve a bit of the plastic there somehow. That's the grille trimmed. I now need to think about paint and masking out the grille. So I've got this etch primer and I've got plastic primer. You can also get other types of primer, regular primer, the red oxide primer and high build primer, lots of different types. So I'm thinking, right, which one do I need here? Etch primer originally was what I was going to use, because I thought, oh well, that'll etch into the plastic and form a good sort of strong bond for the paint to the existing grey or silver plastic coating. When I looked up on this, I mean, it says here use on non-ferrous and rigid plastic, so you can use it on plastic, but I'm not too sure really. I did read up a few stories of it actually melting plastic. It has sort of acid in it, okay, so you mustn't use it on steel and cast iron or ferrous metals, because it can actually corrode them quite badly. You don't really want rust forming sort of underneath the fresh coat of paint. So this is out. I think we're not going to use that. It's too much risk that it could actually damage the plastic. Now this here is plastic primer. It says suitable for rigid plastics, metals and fiberglass. Okay, so even though this one here said rigid plastics, I think this is really the primer that I need to use. Okay, it's specially designed to allow people to spray paint plastic. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. It does say on there to use an adhesion promoter. I didn't actually see any adhesion promoter on the shelf. I'm not sure what that is. I'm hoping that will be okay on its own. And then for the top coat, I'm going to go black. Now this plastic coat paint is fantastic paint. It's really tough, it's flexible, it's perfect for spraying plastic and things like that. I actually sprayed my rear suspension springs with red plastic coat about 4 years ago, and they are still red all over. It hasn't flaked off, it hasn't rusted, it hasn't gone crappy and sort of come off the metal as it moves. So so that is good. The only problem with this is it's gloss, and I couldn't get a satin black. I don't really want a gloss black grille. I want it to be this kind of colour, like satin black, to match the other black parts. Okay, so we've got lots of other black things on the car, and they're all matte black. Okay, so there's no kind of gloss black. Alright, so this is satin here. That's the sort of finish that actually was sprayed with the same paint. Okay, so that's satin. My fog light surrounds are satin black, and I just think it's not going to look quite right if we have then a shiny glossy grille. So I'm not going to use that one. I'll save that for other things. And then that brings us on to this. Now what I do notice here is that that's high coat as well. Okay, so that's the same company make those, so I'm hoping these two will work together. Okay, that's looking good, really good. Very pleased with that. No overspray, and yeah, it's all worked well. I don't think this is over. No, that's just dust there. That's not overspray. Okay, that's good. Right, I'm going to have another go at spraying this hook. I bought a selection of other orange spray paints. The previous spray paint that I used was the Halfords Orange RAL 2003, RAL 2003. I don't quite know what that is. I think it's some kind of standard for the colour. There are other RAL codes for blue and pink and red, and the RAL 2003 and 2004 seem to be orange. Now you can see the colour. This is the sort of colour that was sprayed, okay, by the RAL 2003. It was the Halfords enamel paint, and it made a right old mess of this. Luckily, I managed to put some thinners on it and dissolve off the paint. It has left a few little residues, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is, one by one, I'm going to use these paint cans, not that. That's not my drink. That is actually something that I can spray to test the colours on before I layer this up. Okay, so I'm going to spray this can with a bit of paint just to see what it looks like before committing to spraying it on this. So what have we got here? So we've got the high coat. Okay, so this is also RAL 2003. Okay, you can see the colour there. It's quite bright orange on the label, on the lid, but I've got a feeling that this is going to be exactly the same as the other brown paint. I'm calling it brown because I just don't believe it was orange, really. So I'm going to try a bit of that, and we'll just see if that's the same. I mean, if it is conforming to this standard colour, I'm expecting it to be exactly the same as the Halfords RAL 2003. I've also found this. So these three paints here are all made by Maston, and they were purchased from the range. Actually, this also came from the range as well. All four of these from the range. This one's actually RAL 2004, which looks less bright than the 2003, although looking on the web, pictures of things painted with 2004 looked a deeper, brighter orange. So I will give it a go. I thought it'd be worth buying all of these just to see what colour they actually come out as, and see which one I end up using. This one is also a Maston colour. It's just orange. Okay, so it is just basic orange paint. If we look at the back of these, I mean, they're exactly the same pretty much. This one's got a hardness scale, that one hasn't, but they're all suitable for metal, plastic, glass and things like that. They're just cellulose spray cans, really. So that one looks brighter orange than that. And then I also noticed this, bit of an 80s throwback, this fluorescent bright neon orange, okay, which looks, I mean, the camera really isn't picking that up very well actually, but that orange there is virtually glow in the dark orange. So let's spray each of these one by one on this empty beer can, and hopefully one of them will be bright enough and orange enough to spray the hook. Okay, so first of all we've got our high coat RAL 2003, and let's just get a bit of that on there. You can see straight away that that's the same colour as that, which isn't surprising actually, because it's the same standard paint colour. Right, let's spray a bit of this one and see what it's like. This is the RAL 2004. Okay, here we go. Okay, that's not bad actually. There's the 2003, and you can see straight away that 2004 is much more vibrant, much brighter orange colour. That's pretty good actually. That's very similar to the Winch colour. Interestingly, the lid there is, yeah, I mean that's pretty close actually, and also is I would say pretty bang on for this one really. But it's a shame that that one doesn't match the lid, whereas this is much more like a match. So lid on there. That's 2004. Then we have this one here, which is just orange. Okay, it's not sort of like a standard or anything. So let's have a quick look at that one. Okay, that's not too bad. I would say it's almost halfway between the two. I mean, it is very, very similar to that. It's just a little bit more on. That's virtually the same, isn't it? There's not much in that. Okay, they are really, really similar. So that's pretty good as well. I like that colour. That's very, very similar to the Winch. So the last colour that I've got is this sort of day glow neon orange, which, well, let's have a look and see it. If it's anything like that, that's going to be a little bit too bright. But look, there we go. It's pretty much exactly the same on the back. It's a sort of standard label that this manufacturer puts on. But this one says fluorescent neon, 1 square metre, even though it hasn't got the special nozzle, and half an hour. So it's, yeah, so it's like this, but just brighter. Okay, so right, let's give this one a spray. A bit of this on. Right, ready? Whoa, whoa, whoa. That really is pretty bright. Okay, that's, yeah, okay. So the paint that I'm going to use for the hook is this one here, okay, this RAL 2004. Very, very similar to that one. This can was more expensive. That was, I think, $5.99. This one was like $8.99. So I think it is a better quality paint. It's also quicker drying. This is no rundown. Yeah, it's more of a professional grade one, I think. This is premium spray paint. So that's the paint I'm going to use. I'm going to actually prime this. I've also got a can here of Halford's anti-rust primer. Now here is a photo of the primer section of the paint aisle in Halford's, and as you can see there are many, many different primers. Okay, you've got your zinc primer, you've got your plastic primer, your anti-rust primer, your red oxide primer. There's a primer for everything, really. So I picked up this one, anti-rust. I wasn't going to use etch primer, because etch primer you shouldn't use on steel. I'm pretty sure this is steel. I mean, it's very heavy. It would be crazy if a hook was made of aluminium, I think. So that's got to be steel. Etch primer you can use on aluminium. That's what you're actually really meant to use on aluminium. But you shouldn't use it on steel, because it can cause the steel to actually corrode underneath the paint. So I thought instead I'd use this anti-rust primer. This is a grey primer. Helps prevent metal rusting. Yeah, it helps at the top coat adhere and all that kind of thing. So what is the difference between this one and zinc primer, which is the other sort of anti-corrosion primer that you can get? I don't think there's an awful lot. It actually says there, you can just about see it there, a blend of zinc-based compounds. Okay, so this is not just zinc, it's chemicals that have zinc in them. Who knows if it's better than zinc primer, or as good as, or maybe not as good. It was, I think, a little bit more money than just standard zinc primer. So yeah, whatever's in it should stop this rusting. I don't think it would really rust anyway, because it's got this black paint on it. But where I've sort of dissolved various orange paint and whatever off with thinners, it's probably attacked the black coating a bit as well. So I'll give it a coat with the anti-rust primer, and then I'll give it a spray with this stuff, and yeah, see what it looks like. Okay, so now for some orange. I think we're going to have to go for neon. This just isn't bright enough. Okay, well I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes and then give it another coat, and if it's still looking sort of toffee brown like that, then I will go for our ultimate bright day glow orange colour. Right, okay, I'm finally getting to the colour that I want. A bright orange that's not sort of day glow, glow in the dark. This is bright, but it's, you see the difference here. This is just a lot brighter. It's probably white background here. This is now sort of just orange, really. It's a bright orange like the Winch. That is the colour that I wanted. Now that is the neon, one coat of neon over two coats of the other RAL paint, RAL 2004. Okay, so I've just hung that there, just to air dry without resting against anything. So a couple of little odd jobs that I need to do before I put the front end back on. I need to replace the bolts that are holding this box's bracket on there. Okay, so there's this sort of L-shaped bracket at the back, and I've got a couple of M5 bolts with about 100 nylock nuts on there to sort of hold things kind of in place. Okay, so they will all be coming apart and removed. I'll then stick two M6 bolts through with some aluminium sleeving tubes on there, which I think will just look better and it'll actually be more solid as well. Okay, so I'm going to undo those nuts, take that bracket off, get the drill and use a 6mm drill to enlarge those holes slightly. Okay, I'll do that, and then the other thing I need to do is to drill through here and fit some kind of wiring cradle to the other side to here with a screw. It's probably going to have to go all the way through all of that because that's a kind of a hollow section, but I need to have something to secure that wiring because it's going to start rubbing against this metal soon. Okay, so these are the little aluminium tubes that I've got here with spacer standoff tubes with a 6mm hole in the middle, and I've got a selection of M6 bolts, nylock nuts and some washers. There's the bracket. Now I've drilled through the holes in the winch mount tray here, and I've just enlarged these very slightly, so these should now go through. Let's just check that they there. Yep, they do. I'll put it on there just to spread the load slightly. So those screws are tightly done up in the back of the relay box. Now I need to try and line this up here. As well, I'll go and drop the aluminium tube down the back. Okay, let's carefully hold that nice and tight. Okay, let me show you what I've done there. Okay. There, you can see we've got these nice little aluminium spacers with washers and nylock nuts. It's all stainless steel with the aluminium spacers, and then couple of nuts there. That's a lot more stable now. Okay, so, and we've got a little gap underneath, so happy with that. Right, I need to reattach the remote control plug. There it is, let's get that back on there. So, next thing, wiring cradles. There is the wiring cradle. Okay, that's what I'm going to use, and I'm going to drill through, and then I'm going to sort of stick that kind of there with cable tie around it to hold the cables where they are. Right, let me just try and show you what I've done there, because that was really fiddly getting that put in. Okay, so you can see there, it's getting a bit dark now, but there's a wiring cradle with a cable tie around it, and then on this side over here there is a nylock nut with a washer, spreader washer. Okay, so that cable is now really solid. Okay, so that's held in. I was going to put the black cable into there sort of first in case anything rubbed, but it's the cable tie sort of goes through the saddle wiring cradle thing and then around, so that the whole lot is surrounded by cable tie. It's not touching any metal at all, including the screw that goes through. So that's all good. That's that. Done that. I've done the bracket here, and now I need to clear stuff away, and we're going to get the front end put back on because it is getting a bit late. Right, okay, so that is the bumper surround put back on. I've left those two nuts off deliberately, and I will explain why when I fit it back to the car. Okay, right, that's all looking good. Right, time to get this back on. So, let's have a quick look at where I've got to. Here is the hook with a nice orange paint on it, already chipped, where it's been hooked on underneath the car on the recovery point. The grille was silver, is now black. I've had to cut away the grille here. I've also noticed that it's very close here. I didn't have to cut that away, but it's up against that plastic here and here. But it did need cutting away behind there. I've seen some people chop big chunks out of this. That wasn't necessary on my car, so maybe other types of winch need more grille cutting away. What else? Number plate over this side here with the parking sensor hidden down behind it in a normal position into this bumper surround. That works usually. I have noticed when it's been raining that the parking sensor kind of beeps a little bit more than it should. I can back up in the car and I can be well clear of obstacles and it's still beeping. It's not a fault beep, it just thinks there's something in front of the car. When it's not been raining and it's dry, it's absolutely fine. I think what's happening is water is getting just down here and is getting between the very small gap between the sensor and the number plate. So what I might do is remove the number plate, just sort of either bend it very slightly or just put something, a piece of felt or something sort of down the back, just to see that. But I can kind of live with that. I've got a reversing camera, it's really not causing me too much of a problem. So what are we doing here with fair leads? So we've got the double fair leads. You might notice these look a little bit different to the ones I had the other day. So I've had fun and games with the fair leads, fun and games. I originally bought the winch and it came with a Rhino fair lead, which was similar to this but didn't sort of stick up this high. It sort of went like this, and that was gloss black. I then ordered another aluminium one, a bare aluminium one, to paint orange because I just thought that might look good with the hook and the winch. and they sent me a black one. So I then tried to spray that orange and it didn't work. The paint went all horrible and the shade of orange just wasn't what I wanted. So I then tried to spray the other one and that didn't really work either. So both those fair leads ended up going in the bin. I then bought this Terra Firma one, which is very, very nice. There were two reasons why I bought this. One, it's just got a lovely kind of powder coated matte black finish, and also, as well as this nice Terra Firma logo here, it actually sticks up a bit higher here. Okay, so it's just sort of looks better in my opinion. It sticks up out of this bumper surround. I think that just looks nicer. So I bought that. That was quite expensive. It was about £50. And I thought, well, originally I fitted that with the standard, one of the standard ones behind, but that was then lower and it looked wrong. So I bought another Terra Firma, and the package that arrived was empty. Okay, so the fair leads had come out in the post, and I had awful trouble getting a refund from the eBay seller because it was marked as delivered and it wasn't. And I said, well look, I've received an empty package. So in the end the courier confirmed that it was damaged in transit. It wasn't really damaged, it was actually lost completely. So then I got a refund from them after a couple of weeks. Then I bought another one. It was meant to be another one like this from another eBay seller, and they sent me a gloss black instead of a matte black. So I said, well, you know, the pictures show a matte black. I really wanted matte black. They said, oh, well, they didn't do the matte black anymore. They only do the gloss black. I made inquiries at other sellers, exactly the same story. Don't do the matte black. This was like the last one ever to be made in matte black, it seems. So I then got the gloss black, degreased it very thoroughly and sprayed it with black paint. Okay, so I wanted to sort of dull it down a bit. I used the satin black, same paint that I use for the Grille. You can see there is a little bit of a difference there. This is a slightly more glossy. I should have used matte black. I didn't have any matte black paint. Next time this is all taken off, next time I've got the front end off, I'll just undo that one, pull it off, and spray that matte black just so that it matches in with this one. I don't really want to spray this one because I'll end up going over this nice writing here. So that's fine. Again, I can live with that. I had real fun and games swapping these. Undid this bolt, came out no problem. Went to undo this one, and what had happened is the bolt in the back of the winch mount tray came loose instead, and then it was just spinning the cylindrical steel spacer, and everything I tried, I just could not get that bolt out. In the end, by undoing this one, sort of pulling that out and then using my impact gun to sort of very quickly spin this, eventually it came out. Okay, and then I had to try and get a spanner kind of down. Well, actually I tried to go down along that way and ended up in the end lifting the fair leads, pushing this one up and that one down, and getting the spanner sort of through the hole onto the nut there while I sort of reached in and carefully tried to turn the cylinder. I managed to tighten it enough to stop it spinning and allow me to put this bolt back in, but I haven't tightened that right up. So next time the front end's off, I need to make sure that bolt is really, really tight. Probably put some sort of anti-shake washer or something like that under the bolt head just to stop that coming loose, because if those bolts come loose, you can't undo the fair lead. And the problem then is the fair lead is bolting this to the car. So you can't then remove the front end to get to the bolts. A really, really difficult situation. I managed to finally, just after hours, managed to get it undone. And many thanks to the guys on the Freelander 2 off-road group, Facebook group, who made some really good suggestions on how to get that undone. Gary and Michael, thank you very much. You deserve a mention. So, what else? What else? There's a couple of other things that I want to do. We're literally down to the last 2 or 3 things now. So this bumper surround, I've noticed it sort of droops a bit when you actually take a picture right in front of the car like that. It sort of droops, and it needs lifting up a little bit. So I need to kind of stick something in there, really, just to lift that up. So I thought I'd get a couple of these. They're like rubber, the things that stop the doors bashing back against the skirting board. These are actually fairly firm, but they're perfectly sized to kind of pop up in there, sort of kind of like so, really, like that. Yeah, they need positioning, really, sort of like that. There you go, and that just lifts that slightly up. I'll put two, going one here and one here. And what I need to do is, I don't really want to drill this, but I've got so many other holes in it now, it doesn't really seem to matter if I make any more holes, really. I thought about putting a bit of glue or something on the back of that, because otherwise these sort of roll around. They don't come out, they're just going to slide around. I put them in there the other day, and then I went to feel where they were, and they were both up here. So maybe, possibly a little smear of super glue or something there, carefully put that up there, and then it will just sort of set in position. There is a kind of a hole through these, so I could, if I wanted to, drill carefully, maybe sort of a hole here and a hole here, and then just put a little screw sort of through with maybe a black-headed screw into these. The problem is that hole there is quite large. It's yeah, I don't think a screw is, well, it would certainly hold it in position. It would stop it flying around. Yeah, maybe I'll try the glue approach, see if that works. I guess it depends how greasy and grimy the back of this is. So let's just pull that one. You see what I mean? They slide around. This one's gone right up here now. Come on. Oops, there we go. Right, so there's that one. So I'll put those in there, get them in position, sort of stick them in somehow. The only other thing that I want to do is I want to do something. I don't really want that hanging out like that. I think that's just going to be asking for trouble from the police. I just don't think it's very pedestrian friendly with that sort of sticking out like that. I don't really want to connect it onto the towing eye underneath, because one, it's out of sight, which called me a show off, but I want this nice orange hook to be visible, but also it's just getting all scratched up under the car, and also I worry it could potentially get caught on something under there if I go off-road or go over a big speed bump or something. It might catch there. So what I would like to do is hook this up over here somewhere, so it's kind of like up here, and if I just, let's just get the old winch running. So we've got our magic switch here. Okay, so we'll put that in there. The bonnet can close with that in position before anybody asks, because of this hole here. So with that there, we can now do our remote control, turn that on. I've noticed with these, you turn it on, that's supposed to be a red LED. I mean, it does actually come on, but you can't see it. I mean, in the dark you'd better see it. I wonder if that means the batteries are going already. Very difficult to see if this is on or off, and the worry there is you could put it in the glove box and it could still be on. This could get pressed, the rope could start winding out. This is exactly the reason why I've put this switch in here, to be able to turn the winch off, just in case something presses a button and the winch starts sort of winding out. So let's do that. Now I could have actually used the free spool here, so let's just do that just to show you that. Now I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so well, here we go. We've got to remember to turn this off. Is that off or not? Yeah. Okay. So that's how easy it is to leave one of those turned on. So let's turn that off. The reason I'm turning this off is I don't want to get my fingers anywhere near the winch with it powered up. Okay, so if I'm going to be reaching in here, I mean, here is I wouldn't dream of putting my fingers in there with it powered up, just in case something went funny and it started running. Right, there we go. So let's free spool that out. So we can see how easy it is to do the free spool. Now I know many of you will be disappointed that I didn't go for some kind of electromagnet, automatic linear actuator, free spool, disengaging device. I really wanted to do that, and I might revisit that in a future video, but I've got to get this video series wrapped up, and I've got to move on to something else. I've got about 50 other projects to do, and this one has taken most of the year, and everything else has been put on hold. The Haldex, my ladder for the roof, my oh, what else? LED lights, the Webasto, all the other projects, all the things that people keep asking me for. I don't have any time to do those because I'm too busy doing the winch. So anyway, so winch is nearly there. Let's get this done. Get this done, and I can move on to something different. So what I'd like to do here is put this kind of here or something like that. Now, I can't go too close to the parking sensor in case it starts getting seen by that and triggering. So if I was to put that there, that will actually conveniently cover up this old number plate hole, and screw that in. Now this is not a towing eye. I deliberately went for, this is a marine grade stainless, well, it's a 316 stainless, pretty sure that's marine grade. You can get kind of brackets for mounting like bow shackles and things like that, but my worry with that is it's going to look like a towing point, and it's going to look like a towing point, and I didn't want anybody to accidentally sort of, I don't know, try and winch me out some mud and hook onto it thinking that it's actually connected to the chassis. So this is purely just screwed on to take the winch hook. Now if I just clip this on, there is a problem with this. I went for the largest possible size I could find, and it's still not big enough to go round all the way around the hook. So that could clip on sort of like that. Obviously the rope would be pulled in a bit, but that's the idea. Okay, so it's hooked up nicely, and not sort of sticking out frontwards, hooked up nicely there, out of the way, and well, ready for action really, and most importantly of all, it's visible as well, so it looks good, and that's all that really matters. So so there's that to do. There's these rubber bungs. I can't think of anything else I need to do on this project. There's probably various things that I said I'd do in part 1 and part 2, but apart from the free spool mechanism actuator thing, everything else has been done. So I'm going to get that, what's called a staple plate, stainless steel staple plate. I'm going to get that screwed on. I'm probably actually going to, rather than screw it on, I'll probably put a couple of bolts in and just about get a pair of pliers up the back with a nylock nut, and just in case screws pull out. That hook weighs quite a lot. So yeah, that is it. Nearly there, nearly there. Right, let me do this last thing, and then I will turn the car around, and I'm going to do a bit of a recap of everything I've done in this project, and then show a couple of clips of the car from the front with the bonnet shut, just so we can see what it looks like as a finished item. Okay, I'm going to put that reasonably high up so that the hook then hangs down below it. Get these large to 6mm. Good. hoping now I can actually get in like that. It might be a bit easier going like that. Yeah, there we go. Right. Okay, that's the lower one. Okay. Right, good. Yeah. Right, that's tight. Let's get the lower one. Right. Okay. Oops. Right, there we go. Let's carefully put this back together now. And then I can then put that on like that. There we go. Just like that. I'm pleased with that. We've got nice stainless steel dome head bolts here with stainless nylock and the marine grade stainless staple plate here, and that matches up nicely with this stainless steel here. Holds the hook neatly and sort of visible, ready for action. No kind of crawling about underneath the car in the mud to try and find the hook when you need it, because if I'm stuck in mud, the mud could be, yeah, could be up to here. I don't really want to have to dig the hook out. I want somewhere that I can put it there. Now, when I did the Bewley off-road show, I actually wound that right out and put it up onto the roof rack, attached it up right up high. I won't need to do that now because this is neatly tucked there next to the fair lead, ready for action. So what next? These rubber bungs, I just need to glue those under here. I don't really want to drill any more holes. I think I've drilled enough holes in my bumper surround today. There'll be more screw heads visible, and these holes are quite large in here as well, so then I'm going to need sort of washers and things like that. So I'm hoping I can just put a smear of glue there, stick them up under there, and just let the glue set. And provided that glue is set before I start driving around, they should be absolutely fine. They should stay in position. Okay, I'll do that, and then that is it. The end. Right, so what I'm going to do, I haven't got any Araldite, so I'm just going to use this super glue gel and try and put a load of this on all the way around. Now what I'll probably do is just put these in one by one, put one in, let it set, and then put the other one in. Otherwise they're going to be moving around as I'm trying to put the second one in. The first one's going to move. So right, I'm going to just stop filming while I insert this in there. Okay, right, it's behind there. I've carefully sort of pushed it up behind. It's sitting about there. And I'm just going to let the glue set on that before I put the second one in. Otherwise that's going to drop down as I lift this end. Okay, the first one is set now, so I'm going to, if there's any glue left in this. Come on. Right, I might need to go and get another tube of glue. Okay, right, fresh tube of glue. Let's try again. Right, okay. Try and do this without getting it all over the place. And without getting it all over my hands as well. Okay. The other one is there, and that's stuck. Okay, that's better. Right, the other one is there, so this one needs to go. Super glue everywhere. How far was that? Oh, God, that stuff sets quickly, especially on fingers. Right, it's in position. Glue all over the bottom of the bumper surround. Right, well, it's in there. It's in there. And hopefully, now if I angle this a bit, you can actually see this is straight now. Okay, so it's straight. It's not sort of drooping down, which is something that's been bothering me for years and years and years, ever since I fitted this. It just, if I took a photo from the front, it just, you could see this kind of sag in the middle. It didn't look right. Okay, that is it. Finally, after 8 months, the Winch project is finished. 5 long videos. This project has taken most of the summer. I started it back in April on the Easter weekend. It's now November. The leaves are falling, and it's time for me to get on with another project. Okay, so this one's finally done. Let's just have a quick reminder of what I did. So I removed the front end off the car, I removed the factory cross member and replaced it with a Muddy Mods winch mounting tray, and then I mounted the Rhino winch onto that tray with the control box here at the side. Okay, I had to extend the cabling along because the cables that came with the winch weren't long enough. I then fitted an isolator switch here. Okay, so this has a protective cover over it, and the key goes in like that and turns the winch on. Okay, and due to this convenient cutout here, the bonnet can actually be closed fully with the key in either position. Okay, so with that key turned, the winch is then powered up. What I can do here is operate the free spool lever, pull out the winch on the free spool, re-engage that. Okay, so the winch is now engaged on the motor, and then using one of the remote controls I can actually operate the winch. When I've finished operating the winch, I can then hook onto this nice stainless steel staple plate there. That keeps everything secure, keeps the nice orange hook visible on the front of the car so it doesn't get caught up underneath on rocks and mud. Should I wish to operate the winch using the wired remote control, I've extended the socket out to this one on the wing, fake air intake on the driver's side wing. That allows me to pass the cable through the window, and if necessary I can operate the winch whilst driving the car. So that's that. That's it. That's the end. I hope that video series was useful. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.